Bulls Nation, today I've got an interesting video for you guys. Today we're going to be playing a little bit of a game called Regret or No Regrets. In the end, the Chicago Bulls did make some very big moves towards the trade deadline not so long ago. And a few months down the line, we are going to decide whether or not the players that we gave away was a good thing or a bad thing. And of course, we're going to be discussing all of that. These are only the players that have been traded from the Chicago Bulls, and obviously not the players coming into the Chicago Bulls, as I'll make videos about all of them at a later time. Without further ado, let's play this game called Regret or No Regret in this video. Let's do it. What's up everybody, it's the Aidan Sports Show and welcome back to another video. Today we've got a Chicago Bulls related video discussing the outgoings of the Chicago Bulls, the players that did get traded during the trade deadline. We made some very big trades, trades that determined our future, and today I'm going to be discussing whether I regret or do not regret the players we gave away in turn to acquire some of the players here for the Chicago Bulls. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Aidan Sports Show YouTube channel, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree with some of the things that I have to say, and if I do miss one, because in the end there might be a chance that I miss a player that we didn't necessarily have on the team for a long period of time. Please let me know about that as well. So how this will work is I'll either pick a player or even a draft pick in some instances, and I'll be discussing whether or not I felt comfortable or I felt like it was the right thing to do to trade for the said piece, if it was the right thing to trade them away for the players that we got in. And of course, feel free to play along. At the end of the day, this is just a nice little game, a nice little way to make a YouTube video entertaining, and again, feel free to play along in the comments below. So we did make a few trades towards the trade deadline, and I think that is where we start. That's obviously the majority of our video, and I'm going to start off with the Washington Wizards side of things. We first made a trade with the Washington Wizards for Troy Brown Jr. and Mo Wagner. Obviously Mo Wagner's not part of the team anymore, so we're going to start off with him. Mo Wagner, for a few hours, I would say, he was a Chicago Bulls player. He was someone that I was excited for at the time. Again, I even made a video about Mo Wagner and what I thought he could bring to this team. He was a good three-point shooter. He was someone that had a lot of upside. He was, I believe, 23 years old, around those lines. Someone that I thought could contribute to the Chicago Bulls better than what our centers were already doing at the time. Again, we had Luke Cornett at the time as well. We'll be talking about him a little bit later on. I thought Mo Wagner was a little bit of a step up in that category. However, the trade that we did to get Mo Wagner for Daniel Theis, this makes it an instant no regret in my decision. At the end of the day, Daniel Theis was such a big piece to the Chicago Bulls towards the second half of the season, and someone that we could very well see return for the Chicago Bulls next season if he's a target for us. I don't have any regrets in trading Mo Wagner at this time. And again, I would have loved to see him at least play a game for the Chicago Bulls, but the reality is he was a piece that we brought in to get another piece. And that is something that it goes with the territory here. Not every player is going to get an opportunity for the Chicago Bulls. Mo Wagner was here for a small period of time, maybe not even a recorded period of time, but he was not here for the long term, and I do not regret bringing in Daniel Theis, which means I do not regret bringing in Mo Wagner to this team. Obviously, we traded away two players to the Washington Wizards. We traded away Chandler Hutchison and we traded away Daniel Gafford. Now, I'm going to start off with Chandler Hutchison. Chandler Hutchison is obviously a player I was very excited about when we drafted him. He was a player that looked like he had a tremendous work ethic. He looked like a player that could be a very good slashing guard or even a potential forward. He was someone that in the end had a lot of upside as a two-way player. And again, those players you need to have a very good chance on. You need to give these guys a chance to see if those chances can come forward and you can get a return on the draft. And unfortunately, with Chandler Hutchison, with injuries and with other personal reasons also, we did not see Chandler Hutchison get effective and meaningful game time for the Chicago Bulls. And not only that, when he got those game times, when he got those meaningful minutes, he could not get himself healthy enough to play for the Chicago Bulls consistently. So with that being said, as good as he could do with the Washington Wizards, I don't doubt in my mind that he could be a very good player for the Washington Wizards. I do not regret trading Chandler Hutchison. I think it's as simple as that. At the end of the day, I feel like we do have something in Troy Brown Jr. that we brought into this team, and I do really like this player. at the end of the day, I do not regret trading Chandler Hutchinson because he was not consistent for us. And I think a new start, a new beginning, a fresh start would have been good for Chandler Hutchinson. And I think it's going to be very good for the Chicago Bulls in the future as well. So, with that being said, unfortunately, with his injuries, with his lack of game time, for the amount of years that we had him, I do not regret trading Chandler Hutchinson to the Washington Wizards whatsoever. And I sincerely hope he has the best in his career at Washington, even though he likes to take shots at the Chicago Bulls. Again, I'm not going to be that type of guy to talk badly about a player because he's left. If he wants to take down that route, that's fair enough for him. He could do whatever he likes. He's not my concern anymore. Now, to discuss Daniel Gafford. Daniel Gafford was someone that had a dreadful season for the Chicago Bulls. I'm going to put it as honestly as I possibly can. I thought his season with us was piss poor. I thought it was terrible, and I thought he could have done so much more with the opportunity grasped in his hand. He had the opportunity in his hand. He started games for the Chicago Bulls. He played meaningful minutes for the Chicago Bulls, but he did not live up to the standards that we wanted. However, this is someone I actually do regret trading. I do regret trading Daniel Gafford. In the end, of course, we could talk about Troy Brown and all that. That's going to come at another time. I've already talked about Troy Brown Jr., to be fair. So, with this retrospect, I regret trading Daniel Gafford because I felt like, as you've seen with the Washington Wizards, with a very good point guard in this team, we could have got a lot more out of Daniel Gafford than what we did. Kobe White as the main point guard on this team, even Satoransky as the main point guard on this team, we did not get the best out of Daniel Gafford because he relies on ball movement. He relies on getting the ball in his hands, in the paint, and being able to create something with that. Russell Westbrook is the key reason why Daniel Gafford is doing so well. He needs that type of point guard player that has the ability to play make, has the ability to find the passes that not many other guards can. And Russell Westbrook is a lead at that area. And he makes Daniel Gafford a 10 times better player, not even starting for the Wizards, than what he ever was for the Chicago Bulls. So I think in terms of this, I regret him because I believe in a year's time or towards the next season, we should have a good point guard on this team and we might have gotten a little bit better out of Daniel Gafford. However, what's done is done. He is definitely someone that I do kind of regret trading. At the end of the day, he still is a very young center. He's very athletic. I just felt like we could have got more out of him before we let him go. Unfortunately, these are the things you have to deal with. These are the sacrifices you have to make to bring other players into the team. And I really do like the way that Troy Brown Jr. is heading on this team. So at the end of the day, I do regret Daniel Gafford being traded. I really hope he has a great time in Washington. He seems to be doing very well over there. And hopefully he can continue his progress with the Washington Wizards. Now, that is all the players that really comes to mind in terms of the trade for the Washington Wizards. Now, moving on for the trade to Daniel Tice and I believe Javonte Green. Obviously, we already talked about Mo Wagner. That was obviously part of the trade to go to Boston. Talking about Luke Cornett now. Luke Cornett was a player that didn't really get much game time for the Chicago Bulls at all. When he did play, he was very inconsistent. Some games he was making a lot of threes, pick and pops, was doing everything on the floor offensively. Other games, he was just basically, it was 4 players pretty much playing on the court because Luke Cornett was not really a contributor on this team when he was having off nights. But again, he was the third choice center for the Chicago Bulls. He wasn't the second choice. He became the second choice when Daniel Gafford had his bad run of form. But overall, I do not regret, once again, trading Luke Cornett to the Boston Celtics. I don't think he's going to be a mainstay in the NBA for a long period of time, Luke Cornett. Unfortunately, that's just the type of player that you're going to be dealing with here. I don't think he's a mainstay in the NBA. And again, for a third choice center, I thought he was okay. I think we could do better in that area. Even now, I think we could do better in that area. But with that being said, Luke Cornett did not bring too much to the Chicago Bulls for me to really regret trading him to the Boston Celtics. And again, hopefully he does well in Boston. I like the Boston Celtics. I know many people don't, but I like the Boston Celtics. At the end of the day, I don't think he's going to be a long-term asset for the Boston Celtics. And I just don't think he's going to be a player that will be in the mainstay of the NBA for a long period of time. Again, it's up to him to prove all of us wrong if that's the opinion that we have of him. I do not regret trading Luke Cornett by any stretch of the means, and I'm really happy that we brought Daniel Tice in. I thought that was the biggest trade of the trade deadline in my opinion, the smartest one as well. And let's hope future-wise Daniel Tice can remain on this team to make it an even better trade for the Chicago Bulls. Now, Moving into the Orlando Magic side of things, this was the third trade that the Chicago Bulls made in the trade deadline. We do have a lot of players to talk about here, but before we talk about the players, I want to talk about the picks. So, first things first, the 2021 first round pick. This obviously is now confirmed to be the 8th pick in the NBA draft, and I do definitely regret trading this pick. At the end of the day, I regretted it from the very beginning. Unfortunately, with getting a player like Nikola Vucevic on this team, you have to sacrifice big things. He is definitely a player that can be in a playoff team, be in a very good team, and he has the capabilities to take this team forward and to progress our team. And we made a very big risk in doing that. We got rid of some young players, but we got rid of the picks as well. And again, the 8th pick is not game-changing in my opinion. It's not a pick that's going to end up drastically changing the Chicago Bulls. But I've always, and this could be my own doing here, I'm a very short-minded person. And I felt like this draft could have been a very good asset for the Chicago Bulls. It still can be a very good asset for the Chicago Bulls. However, the fact that we had a pick and we gave it away, in my opinion, I do regret trading that pick. I don't obviously regret bringing Nikola Vucevic into this team, but I do regret trading that pick, and that's something that if we could have avoided, I definitely would have avoided in my opinion. And the 2023 first round pick, we don't know what obviously the overall that pick is going to be. At the end of the day, I'm not really fussed about this one. I don't regret trading the 2023 first round pick. In the end, I've said this countless times, if we really wanted to get into that draft class, we have 2 years to trade into it. It's as simple as that. We don't need to really worry about that, in my opinion, at this point in time. So I'm not going to come out and say I regret it. But obviously, if I'm still here in 2 years' time, that could be a different story at the end of the day. So we're going to have to wait and see how that one goes. But obviously, that's too long term for me to focus about at this point. I do not regret trading 2023 first round pick. And hopefully we'll be a much better team that we don't need that pick by the time the draft comes around for 2023. And now to focus on the players, we're going to start off with Otto Porter. Otto Porter was a player that was making $28 million a year for the Chicago Bulls. He was a player that in the end was a very frustrating player at times due to his injuries. I really thought at the beginning of the season he did have a good start to the season for the Chicago Bulls, but at the end of the day, that back injury really stunted him, and in the end, even when he came back, he just wasn't the same player as he was at the beginning of the season. And I think many people can come to the agreement here that none of us regret trading Otto Porter Jr. I think it's as simple as that. In the end, it's an expiring contract. He made a lot of money for this team. Many people didn't even like him to begin with. I personally did like him, but at the end of the day, even I changed my mind on him. Injuries just can really come back to haunt a player. If for someone that's making $27 million a year to become a bench player for the Chicago Bulls, I'm sorry, that's just not the standard for the amount you should be getting paid. And unfortunately, that's where Otto Porter ended up ending his time at the Chicago Bulls, on the bench. And that is something that it is what it is. And maybe he can continue in the NBA after this season. At the end of the day, he's a free agent now, I believe. We're going to have to wait and see if there's a team willing to take a chance on him. But for $28 million, even if it's on an expiring deal, I really don't care. Of course, Al-Farouq Aminu it's a 2-year deal, so yeah, technically it is a worse trade for us, but I don't regret trading Otto Porter Jr. to say the least, in my opinion. At the end of the day, if you're not doing well for the Chicago Bulls, you should not be making $27 million. I don't care if you're on a 1-year deal. That's just something that it is what it is, and we have to move on from that. Obviously, Al-Farouq Aminu is a different story. We'll be talking about him in a future video. But yeah, in terms of trading Otto Porter, I don't regret it one bit. Wendell Carter Jr. This is probably the hardest one to talk about, in my opinion, because I really like Wendell Carter, and I even think he's going to do very well for the Orlando Magic. But Wendell Carter is a very interesting topic to talk about, because at the end of the day, we've swapped a center for a center. And if you're asking me who's the better center, of course, Nikola Vucevic, in my opinion, is a much better center. So this, in my opinion, refers to what you want from the Chicago Bulls. Obviously, if you're still looking to kind of be in that rebuilding stage, Wendell Carter is probably the person that you would want on the team, because he's a lot younger and he has some upside to him compared to Nikola Vucevic, who's already now a player. So I don't regret trading Wendell Carter. I think that's what I'm trying to say, because I want this team to be good. And I think we have a lot of young players on this team still that can really make the team diverse. We still have Kobe White. We still have Patrick Williams. We're going to have Marko Siminovic come into this team. Hopefully I said that name right. And he could be a very young player for us as well. Devin Dotson, Troy Brown Jr. We have the young key pieces that we could have risked getting rid of Wendell Carter, who granted can be a very good player in this league, for a player that's ready now, and we can kind of have a combination of young and experienced players. And I think that's the best way to approach trying to get into a championship contending team. You need to have variety. You need to have win now players. You need to have those 28, 29, 30-year-old players that are ready to win now. Zach LaVine's entering that stage. Nikola Vucevic is in that stage. You obviously have players like Thaddeus Young and Garrett Temple that are a bit older, not really at that stage, they're kind of past that stage now, but can contribute because they're win now players. They know how to win now. And we need more of those players in this team at the end of the day. So Nikola Vucevic, in my opinion, is a better option on this team if we're wanting to win as soon as possible than Wendell Carter. And I think that's the direction the Bulls went down. I think many people are happy that we went down that route. And in the end, Wendell Carter was not a fan favorite for the Chicago Bulls. I really like Wendell Carter, and I still like Wendell Carter now. And he is, in my opinion, a very good player to watch. And he's someone that has a tremendous upside. And I'm not going to change my mind on that just because he's on a different team. I like Wendell Carter. I don't regret trading him because I understand where this team's direction was going to go down, and you had to get rid of someone if you wanted to get a player like Nikola Vucevic on the team. Wendell Carter is a big asset for us, and that is someone that was enough to get that deal over the line. So I do not regret trading Wendell Carter, but again, similar to all these players, I wish him the best in what he decides to do. Orlando, if he wants to go to another team in restricted free agency, I believe he has 1 year left on his deal now as well. So very tough decisions to make for Orlando and for Wendell Carter as well, but he is definitely someone I do not regret trading as well. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the trades. That is the regret or no regret game that I've discussed with you today. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully this video made sense to you guys, and maybe we can play it again down the line if we make some more trades for the Chicago Bulls. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. Have a wonderful and safe day, Bulls Nation. I'll see you in another Chicago Bulls video. Take care.